It's Mark Messier, and you're listening to Blueshirt
Underground Show,
the #1 Rangers podcast. Make sure you tune in and find out all the latest news. Let's go Rangers!
Blueshirt Underground, motherfucker!
TFBS Ranger bad. TFBS Ranger bad. This is an unlawful gathering. This is an unlawful gathering. The truth is out there. The truth is out there.
This is the underground. This is new media. This is the underground. This is new media.
Ranger fans, report to the critical thinking hangar. Ranger fans, report to the critical thinking hangar.
And now here is the starting lineup for the New York Rangers. And now here is the starting lineup for the New York Rangers.
This is New York Rangers hockey. 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 This is New York.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Blueshirt Underground Show. Today is Wednesday. It is July the 13th. Free agency frenzy has begun. My name is Jim, and as always, I'm joined on the other side of the window by the one and only Eddie Geik. Eddie, good evening, sir. Busy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Usually these things are kind of duddish, but this was like trades and picks and salary dumps and, of course, the UFAs. It was fantastic. I have been glued to NHL Network since noon, since I am kind of afforded that luxury. And I was I was texting all my friends who actually have jobs still that, keeping them updated. It was great.
It was nice of you to do that, to provide the news, the updates,
Yes.
giving all the breakdowns.
I know you're on top of the Twitter, the twat, your face, Elliot Friedman, whatever he tweets out or.
Actually, I stayed off Twitter after things began. I was just I had TSN on, and then I had to switch over to Sportsnet because TSN is just, they get very hokey on that station. Just a lot of goofy filler. And
Which one?
TSN.
Oh, yeah.
They get very Canadian, very hokey.
Well, was it on ESPN too as well? ESPN TOO, not
I don't know. I didn't even look.
I heard people complaining about Messier and Kevin Weeks was the only decent guy.
Now I go to, whenever I can go to Canada for my coverage, I go to Canada.
I will say the NHL Network did a very good job.
My streaming service has the Canadian sports networks, and that's where I go for my information.
Oh, I don't have that.
Yes.
Well, there was a draft show, right, Chris? Or TBS, and one of those fucking things. Equals Canada's. Oh, explaining it to me. Okay.
Yes. They're owned by the same people. But I still like TSN better than ESPN.
Well, of course. TSN, they cover the real sport.
Right.
Which is hockey. Well, we got a big guest, right, Jim? I can't wait to catch up with this.
Yes. Steve Kournianos will join us in just a minute to talk about all these draft picks that we know nothing about.
I know a little bit. I promised everybody I would do a little research. Now, I promised a clipboard, but the wife's out of town. I couldn't locate a clipboard, so make sure you got a.
The wife's out of town. I couldn't
I don't
find
know
a
anything
clipboard.
is.
He hasn't eaten in 3 days, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, you don't even know. So
there's just a steady stream of Grubhub vehicles down Eddy Street in Lake Ronkonkoma.
It's true. It's true. My wife did make me some turkey chili, like in a vat, like a witch's cauldron of turkey chili, so I could survive on that. I'd like, and as well as a 2-ton bucket of pre-made tuna fish.
Nice.
So, because I love tuna. See, I got a little manila folder in here with my papers and my questions that I'm going to give to Steve. I know a little about the draft picks. That's just kind of a cursory thing, it's not like I'm watching every game these guys have played, and I'm sure Steve streamed all these guys, and I'm interested to know who he wanted and we didn't get, and we didn't have a lot of picks. Let's face it; it wasn't like a boon year to, kind of get into the draft. The Rangers were out of the first round. They had 1 second-round pick. They have 1/3 or something. I don't know. So we'll get all into that. Okay, I mean, do you want to wait for Steve? Because Steve is a diehard Ranger fan as well.
Steve's here, so
let's get it going. Let's make Steve the official third host as long as he wants.
You want to get right to it? All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome back.
He knows his shit.
It's been a while. Steve, how are you?
Great, guys. How you guys doing?
Good to see you.
We're alive. After the pandemic, we all lived. So
we all survived.
We're surviving.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Ranger news before we deep. I want your immediate reaction to the Vincent Trocheck deal. With some fans having a problem.
Oh,
what do you
got
think?
a big problem.
There's a big problem in Ranger land.
Problem.
I was about to jump in the shower. I was getting ready, and I picked up my phone, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" And my wife said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right."
Was it, "Are you kidding me?" Or was it, "Are you kidding me?"
It was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Okay.
But it's just the term. It was the term.
All right. Well, let me play devil's advocate to that, because I don't have a problem with the term, mostly because I might be dead by the time the term ends. So, whatever. But the Rangers, wouldn't you agree with me, guys, that the Rangers, people say, "Oh, this is a win now contract." Well, shouldn't it be a win now contract? The Rangers were the last team to get eliminated before the Stanley Cup. Shouldn't we go for it in the next 2 to 3 years? That's the thing. I'll worry about that then. Isn't the salary cap going to get, it's going up in a couple of years? Right now we're dealing with a flat cap. Do you see, let me ask you this. Do you see Trocheck a better option than Kopp or Strome?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. What about you, Jim? How do you feel about this?
Well, I kind of feel the same way you do. I'm not worried. The term, whatever, it is what it is. I mean, that's what buyouts are for. If we have to worry about that in 4 or 5 years, I'm not worried about the term. They should be, like you said, they should be in more of a win now mode. They were the, two games from the Stanley Cup final. So what else? I have no problem with it. Trocheck is a guy they've been after for 2-3 years. He's a guy that everybody wanted when he was with the Panthers. That's all we heard about it. He was got to get Trocheck, got to get him, or who was he with before the Panthers? Montreal, right?
I don't think so. I thought he was
was he with somebody before the Panthers, or maybe he signed I don't know. Before he signed his deal with the Panthers, his last deal, he was the guy everybody wanted. Now we got him. They don't want him.
It's the term. It's
I'm fine with it. It is what it is. The same people wanted to give Kadri, who's the same age, the same money for the same year, more years.
A little bit old, yeah.
Or a little bit older.
A little bit older.
I'm fine with it. He's an absolute upgrade.
Yeah, he's definitely an upgrade.
I mean, so I guess a lot of people, I don't know. I think it's a good trade. I mean, and a good pickup.
And he'll be a piece for when the next letter comes out for the next rebuild. He'll be one of the guys they trade for picks in 2025, 26.
Here we go. Steve, I wanted to ask you, do you think, what's your problem with the term? Considering that Tampa gave everybody 8 years, I don't understand that, right? I mean, is it, what's the thing that may give you the reaction as you are hopping into that shower?
It's simple. The young kids, a couple of these kids are going to hit. and I think one or two of them are going to hit big. Lafreniere being one, and you got to figure one of Jones, Lundqvist, or Schneider. You got Keandre Miller, Kako. Like it's so we got to think when these guys are 24, 25 years old. I don't want it to be a Blackhawk situation or a Kings situation where you're terrible and you're stuck with all these contracts of veterans. Later on towards the end of it. But again, I completely agree with the fact that they just went to the conference final. Really, kind of should have went to the frickin' Stanley Cup, but that's for another time.
Right.
But so I get it. I think a lot of older guys were kind of scarred from Neil Smith, where like he just was, making all these deals. Like he has to get back to a cup. He has to keep buying free agents and trading away youth. Obviously, this is a free agent signing, but on the surface, all in all, it's a good signing. 5 years, I'd be ecstatic, but those extra 2, it's like,
right.
But,
I hear you. So the Rangers obviously think they're going some places. I think as Ranger fans, in the way back in the head, we're saying last year was a fluke. Shesterkin played out his ass. We got there. He was the only reason we got there. You tend to think of that. Also, some great deadline moves by Drury. And maybe they're not going back. Maybe they're not ready to get locked into like the go for it now mode. But when I've thought about it, they got a pretty good damn thing going. And, Trocheck wins faceoffs, which we need so badly. I mean, but like you said, it may stop from some of these guys that going forward are going to prosper. There's a lot of good Ranger prospects, at least, from what I'm looking at. So I'm seeing, what's the chat room saying, Jim? Are they pro Trocheck?
Pretty much in line. Worried about the term. Everybody's worried about the term.
Right. Okay. So
a lot of people were saying that Andrew Kopp, could have been had for 5 years for the same money. Well, Andrew Kopp pretty much had it in his mind that he was going to Detroit. He's a Michigan guy.
He wants to be with the
family. They were at the top of his list. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, and maybe it was just my imagination, but there seemed to be, and I don't know if this was just a COVID thing because everything that went on the last 2 years, there seemed to be a lot more players signing, wanting to go home. Like you had Goodrow kind of forced his way, not necessarily forced his way, but he's working his way to the East Coast. Kopp. It just seems like a lot of guys are more concerned with playing closer to home than they used to be.
Could be.
Just I don't know. I heard that a few times today watching TSN, seeing guys sign here and there, and it just seemed like quite a few guys. Like Giroux went to Ottawa, which to me I was baffled by until I kind of heard him explain it that it's where he's from and he wanted to go home. So
yeah, that could be.
I don't know.
There's also got to be a reason these guys got long-term deals. I mean, Tampa Bay is a really smart organization. And the fact that they locked 2 or 3 guys up to $8 million, Sergachev, $8 million, 8 years. Do you really think, Steve? Do you really think that Sergachev is worth that, or is there some kind of?
He was big against us, in that in the conference final. I like Sergachev. I've been following him since he was a prospect back in 2016. So I get it. They already let go of McDonough. Hedman, you don't know how much longer he's got left. Their pipeline is really thin. They've gutted it significantly over the last few years. So I understand why they did it. It's hard to question anything Tampa does.
Right. I mean, I just feel like for $8 million, you should be putting some more points up.
He could. Sergachev has that ability. It's just a matter of usage, right? So I think Tampa Bay's power play, they have the 4 forwards. They have Stamkos, Point, Kucherov. They'll have another forward as the net front guy. I think it's Killorn or whichever guy they use. And then Hedman So, maybe if you have Sergachev with that big shot, that he could put up more points. But he's actually a pretty good defenseman too. He's got good size, good
Yeah,
stick,
yeah, no
holds his
doubt about
line.
it.
So I think it's just more like, listen, they won with him, so lock him up.
Right. They've had success with him, and okay. So I just wanted to address the Trocheck signing, and we could touch on Halak a little bit. I mean, I thought it was a solid, for what he's going to be. I thought that
Can't
was
beat him,
solid.
sign him.
What?
If you
Yeah.
can't beat him, sign him.
Oh, he
Lundqvist
killed
is
it
out of the
already.
league now for Halak to terrorize.
Yeah. And the spicy pork guy, Deming there, he's back.
He's the new Keith Kincaid.
Yeah, he'll play, But I think it's a smart move to load up on some of these guys who have experience like Halak, because goaltending is very hard, very scarce. Capable goaltending.
Yeah.
At least we know Louis Domingue can stand in the net in a playoff game and not lose his shit. Because
Right.
the Rangers can we all agree before we go into the draft and everything that if Shesterkin ever gets hurt for any kind of period of time, it's over.
I think that's what Drury's trying to plan for. He's trying to prepare.
Right. That's what I think.
Georgiev showed that he could not be trusted.
No.
And so, you have a veteran like Halak. He's not Igor. He can't.
Nope.
But
he's capable of playing really well and sometimes not so well. But
yeah,
you could take that.
By the way, reported in the chat room and now made official by TSN, Johnny Gaudreau has left the Islanders and the Devils at the altar and has signed with the coach.
Yes.
The Columbus Blue Jackets.
Wow.
That's fantastic. I think
Steve is perplexed.
Yeah. Apparently they threw a lot, like $12 million was a number I heard earlier that 7 years, 9.8 AAV is what Chris Gavalis is saying in the chat.
Wow.
So
I didn't want him as on the Rivals. I did not want him.
I would have been okay because the Flyers, had wanted him in the early going. I would have been okay with that because I felt like with the Flyers, he would have done like the least amount of damage.
Well,
I really wouldn't have bothered me much if he got to the Flyers. Playing under Torts, they're not going to be any good for a while. It wouldn't have bothered me. But if he's on the Devils and the Islanders, that would have bugged me. So
yeah,
I agree.
Columbus.
Hey,
all right.
Listen, the Blue Jackets, they have to restock their pool the last few years, so they'll be dangerous, but they're still behind the Devils. They're behind the Rangers in terms of like where they're at rebuild wise, if you want to call them a rebuild. The goaltending's inconsistent. But on paper the roster looks good. Now you're adding Gaudreau to a lineup that has freaking Line and Texier, Bjorkstrand. It's
who's that? Cole Sillinger, I think they have that young guy.
Sillinger's the first round pick from last year. They got, of course, Werenski. But hey, whatever. If you're a Jackets fan, it's rare for them to get this type.
Yeah, they never get like the big fish.
Yeah. Right. So good for them. They lost Panarin, they lost Duchesne, when they had that nice run in the playoffs. So it helps. He helps them. He helps them immensely offensively. He's a 100-point guy.
Yeah. I wondered, just to finish up on him, that if he's able to put up 115 points playing with them, rather than playing with Kachuk and, but he's a great player. Great offensive player.
Yeah.
All right. Steve, I actually wrote down questions to ask you.
Okay.
And this is a first on this broadcast. I'm being at. We're talking about the current draft and maybe the last two drafts. Do you think that COVID hindered the progress overall of a lot of the guys that were, say, not this year so much, well, maybe this year too, last 3 years, let's say, of the draft? Do you think it hindered the progress of the players that have played in the NHL? And this year, they haven't played, but the previous 2 years?
Not widespread. I think it's more like a small percentage because a lot of these guys they welcomed the rest. You know what I mean? They welcomed it. They're just like us, when it comes to jobs. Like your job gives you extended time off, and they're going to pay you for it. You're like, okay, So the the key for them was obviously stay in shape. The quality of play was really good this year. I enjoyed it.
Yes,
NHL wise, the playoffs were fantastic. Uh, so I think a lot of those guys they used it as a reset, spend more time with their families. Morale, mental state, big deal, big part of it. You want your families happy. Um, as far as draft picks go, it really only impacted, I think, the OHL out of everybody else because they just shut their season down the whole season. Whereas everybody else played 15 games, 25 games. They had camps, they had workout sessions on ice, off ice. I think it's in the rearview mirror, to be honest with you. I think everybody is like,
yeah. Like in real life, it's kind of like,
but the NHL had a really good plan. When they came out with the return to play plan, so many people were so critical and saying, no, you're going to kill everybody. And it really worked out. The bubble was fine. I got used to it, not having fans in there. And, I don't like giving the league credit too much. But it worked. They were out of all the sports teams, leagues, they were the ones that got it going the fastest. And we had playoffs, we had champions, we had drafts, everything.
Right. I think a couple years back we had you on, and certainly I'm not here to say, listen, you picked it, you said this guy, you get enough of that. I respect what you do, man, and you got to have a tough skin if you're dealing with the social media and all that stuff.
Sure.
I certainly get, even when I occasionally go out there and say, oh, Rangers should get this guy, I get 100 responses. This is so terrible. Why would you suggest this? You said that when the Rangers drafted Capo Caco, that you've kind of thought he'd be a 30-30 guy in a couple years. And you said that if he isn't, that's on him. What is your opinion of Capo Caco now?
It's on him. It's on him.
It's on him.
I am not going to blame the team. I've been watching this kid under a microscope because, listen, when you cover a draft, you have to cover it based on what they do at the moment, right? That's what I do. I try to articulate what the kids have done over the course of their draft year. And so with Kako, he was so fantastic. You could not marginalize anything that he did. He was setting records in the freaking league, in the SM League in Finland. He was dominating tournaments. He was outplaying Jack Hughes in these tournaments. So there was absolutely no sign whatsoever that there might be something wrong with this kid. He's got an attitude. He's not a good skater or whatever. And even the IQ, he never came across as a dumb or one-dimensional or high-maintenance kind of a wing who needed other people to do the work to get him the puck and so on. I watched this kid dominate the boards. I watched him, know when to slip away from that board battle and get into the open areas or open ice to fire that shot on net. He was finishing all kinds of ways, finishing backhand, forehand, wrist shot, one-time, a breakaway. I mean, everything. And I'm watching this kid now the last 2 years, and he's lost in the offensive zone. He's lost. And one of the things I looked at in the postseason was when you have this kid line, usually when you have any line, the coach will tell one guy in that line, I want you to be the first guy into the forecheck. I want you to be the guy that anticipates the clearing attempt or the hard around, usually behind the net. And you, the third forward, I want you to position yourself either in the slot, so maybe if a loose puck squirts free, you're open, or I want you on the other boards. So basically, Tampa Bay did this. One guy on the right boards, one guy on the left boards, one guy behind the net during a forecheck, and you basically force them to place the puck in the middle, and that's where the defenseman can activate pinch and maybe pick a play off. It briefs well. It's not always perfect, but and I'm watching Kako. Hedl was doing what he was supposed to do. Lafreniere was definitely doing what he was supposed to do, and Kako was freaking lost. He was late. Was missed to intercept passes. He wasn't there. And on the flip side, when Lafreniere or Hedl had the puck, I'm like, Kako, freaking get open. There's an opening right there. And he was just lost. He was joining a puck battle when he wasn't needed there. So now the issue is IQ and hockey sense, where he's not sensing where the puck is going. He's not sensing when he needs to release to go into those soft areas near the net, the high danger areas. And he's been the stick work is fine. He's creating a lot of turnovers. He's good along the board still. That's fine. But when and on top of all that, he's missing these gimme chances.
Yes.
So, I mean, we didn't see this. We didn't see this in his draft year.
Right.
We didn't see it. He wasn't doing this stuff. So is it like people like, oh, he's planning on playing the power play enough? Oh, he's not. The coaches, no BS, because Lafreniere caught hell all year. He was benched, demoted, well, I don't know if he was scratched, but I even said maybe send the kid to the AHL, and he roared to life in the postseason.
I think he was scratched for a game or two, wasn't he, Lafreniere, during the year? I think so.
Didn't Gallant get upset about that?
I think so.
Gallant was like, give it a Molly, whatever her name is there, Molly Walker. Questioned her, and he was like, give it a break, Maui.
Yeah.
Gallant was all.
But the point is that, Kako's been here longer. He was here a year longer. He's had 3, 2.5. I mean, 2 full if you want to add them all together. And outside of really good defensive play and some little moments here and there, like we're waiting on him. And I openly admitted, I said, hey, if he doesn't deliver next year, consider trading him. Trading him.
I think you're right. I mean, I haven't seen. You'll see like a 2-game, like, oh, I could see something here, but I feel like he's speed. I don't really like his speed. I don't know.
Just late. He's late to a lot of spots. He's not beating. He's not winning his foot races, his 50-50 battles. Like Lafreniere was. Hedl surprised. He had a great playoff.
He had a great playoff.
But it's just a playoff. They won the Carolina series, even though Kako, missed that wide open net.
Oh man. Between him
and like now he missed it. He missed it by a mile.
Between him and Strome, I was gonna have an embolism over here. These guys,
but
wide open
to wrap it all up about Kako, I think we still got to give him time. If it's going to take another year, fine. But as a Ranger fan, you're like, what the hell, man? Like freaking Kravtsov and Leah Sanderson, Kako.
I know.
The hell? Top 10 picks.
Number 2 pick, and I don't know. He looks very mopey on the bench too. He's never really excited. I don't know if that affects me as a fan more than like analyzing the guy's play.
He's very expressionless.
Yes,
he's got all the expressions of Darth Vader. You know what bothered me, and I think everybody knows I've been in Kako's corner, trying to, his hype man. But you know what bothered me? When he talked to the media after the end of the season and said, I played my best hockey in the playoffs. I'm like, what?
Ugh.
Wow. What? That's as good as you get? That's the best you play? That's it? That's what we get?
That's
like, oof. Somebody's got to sit this kid down.
He had moments there were times where he had moments where
I remember a couple of moments where you were like, wow, he can do that?
Yeah.
Like he went around the net and it was like, oh, he looked like he was dominating for that one shift. So yeah, that's where we are with Kako. I think
they gotta bring Rael Ruotsalainen in here to tell him how it is.
Yeah.
Get him a finish,
Mikko Leinonen.
Right.
I think that guy
6 assists. The 6 assists.
I think he's a coach.
He needs a consigliere.
Yeah, that's right. He had the 6 assists in one game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the Flyers. I think the Flyers
Yes.
are wearing pants.
Yeah,
Yes,
Super
I
Bowl
think you're
fans.
right.
Yeah.
I think you're right
I
about
just
that.
remember Bill Chabot destroying his name. He was like, Mikolona Nonin, Linoleum. Like that's all I remember. But I think he's coaching overseas anyway. So what else did I have here? Well, I can't even read my own handwriting. All right. Well, we talked about Kako. See, I just want to wrap it up with the Kako. Is that there are Ranger fans, and this is generally going for prospects or guys that we've drafted and are playing. They say, he's so young. Look at him. He's 21. I mean, you don't give up on guys that. I try to listen, you got to show me something. Just a little. I don't need much. I just need a little. And I haven't seen it from him. And then I get destroyed when I say, this guy stinks. Now, from what I say, to me, the guy he's not good. I mean, yes, he could mature, but I got to see a little. Just give me a little. I don't want a lot. I got patience, but I don't know. What do you say to people that say, oh, you got to stick with a guy because he's young? Is that
Doesn't always work out. That's not true. Everyone thinks that, well, if you just wait until he's 25, then he's going to have a 25-goal season like sandwiched in there. Sometimes it just does not work out. Okay. You could go to Hockey DB or Hockey Reference or the old NHL guide and record book and look at all the top 10 picks. A lot don't hit. They just don't. And that it can't be, for every, toxic coach who might have been mean to the kid and like really, you remember like John Muckler called Manny Malhotra garbage.
Yeah, you didn't even know who he was. Yeah, I remember.
Right.
Yeah, and Malhotra, he was pumped up like he's the safe future captain.
Yeah.
But it's mostly on the kids. When they get that first paycheck, what do they do with it? Who are they hanging out with off the ice? What do they do with their free time? Are they watching film? Are they, staying late after practice? Are they, scouting other goalies and trying to figure out, like Kurt Schilling? I always think about Kurt Schilling, how he used to have a CD-ROM for every freaking batter in both leagues. And he would, and so sometimes if your God-given abilities aren't doing it, aren't cutting it, where your wrist shot isn't beating NHL caliber goalies, then reinvent yourself or try to, figure something out. And I don't know. I don't live with Kako or hang out with him. I have no idea what he's doing on his free time. But I don't think it's a question of effort with him.
No,
it's decision making. His decision making is poor. And they say, you can't fix stupid. I don't want to call Kako a stupid player. But a big reason why he's not producing has nothing to do with the line mates, has nothing to do with the coach, has nothing to do with usage. A lot of it has to do with him.
Right.
So
there are a lot of fans, a generation of fans, especially since the advent of the internet and people following prospects. Back in the day, I couldn't tell you who the guys were, But now everybody's got their favorites. And with Kako, it's like a lot of people are like, well, he doesn't play with the right line mates, like you said, right? Which to me is like, don't you have to earn to play on the first line? I mean, maybe that's an old school way of thinking it, but you just don't go right to the first. Look at you alluded to this before with Lafreniere. He hasn't had first line minutes. He doesn't play the power play, but you could see the growth in this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He hits. He's involved. He takes a little bit. The penalties, he's a little undisciplined at time with that, but that's nothing. I could see that this guy is going to be something. You could just tell he's hitting, he's involved, and so I'm not big on the guy's age. You can't give up on him. What are you, crazy? Because a lot of people are invested in these guys like 3 years before they come to the Rangers, and when reality hits, sometimes it's not good.
Well, it's like Lias Anderson. Everyone made every excuse in the book. I hated that pick. I hated it. I liked the kid. I had him ranked like 15th, and he did have a good postseason for HV 71, and that might have been the tipping point for Gordy Clark and Gordon. But everyone made every excuse in the book. Oh, he threw the medal in the stands because he's passionate. Oh,
Right.
he's being misused. Oh, he scores so much in Hartford. How come he's not scoring with the Rangers? Oh, he needs to play more. And I'm like, this kid hasn't done anything. He hasn't generated a scoring chance. He got a shot on goal, and people were like, "Oh, Leas had a scoring chance today." And I'm like, no, this kid, and obviously and now that he got traded to the Kings, we got Cooley because of him. Beautiful prospect for Cooley.
Wonderful pick.
And Anderson, the Kings keep force feeding him into that lineup when there's a million center prospects with higher upside that they keep him buried down in Ontario. And Anderson hasn't done anything. He hasn't done a thing. And now we're 5 years post draft. So sometimes, like I said, kids just don't hit, and you got to move on. You got to cut the cord and say, let's try it again.
We
And
should have known when he
hopefully-
fell on his ass on opening night.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully
We
that's
should
what
have known then.
Kakko. The thing about Kakko is he really was a very good defensive forward, analytically and optically. He looked really good in the neutral zone, stealing pucks, turning a turnover into a break the other way, whether it be because of his pass, not really because of his speed. But so it's not the end of the world if he could reinvent himself into be a really good bottom six checker, penalty killer. I don't know, but I want to see him get open before the other team knows he's open. That's what I want to see. That's what goal scorers do.
Okay. Now the Rangers have a prospect camp going on, right? I think they have something like that. Yeah, I think they have a prospect camp. The guys that I saw interviewed, they were very interesting. A lot of the guys they actually drafted this year were very it's funny. They were all excited to be on the Rangers because they watched the Rangers in the playoffs and they were all giddy about being a Ranger. They don't know about the history of this team. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know the pain.
Ask Standis Ozelinch and Bruce Driver what it was like to be a Ranger.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk about the prospect camp. You mentioned Will Cooley.
Yep.
I like this kid that they played 2 games in the junior championships, I think, or something last year or something, because he got COVID up. And I watched the 2 games that he played in, and I like him. He's physical. He's a gritty guy. I think it's a lot of Ranger fans would like this guy. What do you think of Will Cooley?
Well, for the physicality and the fighting is fine. I fully support that style of play, but he could score. He's a scorer. And so his team went deep in the OHL playoffs this year. They lost to Hamilton in the final, Windsor. And his draft year, I watched him. This kid, he was on some Team Canadas, right? The U17. I think he was on the Helenka team as well, the U18. So I saw him doing some fancy things with the puck, stick handling, creating his own shots, toe drags. And I'm like, all right, so this is a power forward with hands and skill. And you saw that from him this year, especially. And then even when I watched him play in Hartford, I think it was last year with the OHL shutdown, they allowed them to play in the A.
Yeah.
And he looked pretty good. I think he gave him top 6 minutes. He was physical. He's a lot faster than people give him credit for. I think he's got what they call deceptive speed. But I'm a huge fan. And, when you have Orthman and Cooley, similar players in terms of the physicality and the shooting prowess. Obviously, with Orthman being a little bit quicker, but you have to be happy with his development. I supported the pick the minute they got him. I'm like, thank God that we got rid of Anderson. We brought this kid in, and he's so far so good.
Do you think he has a shot at making the Rangers this year, or he's going to be in Hartford?
I have to see how free agency unfolds. Hartford last year was terrible in the second
They're always
half.
bad. Are they ever
No,
good?
they were good. They were good to the start.
They were good
to
to
season.
start,
People
right?
wanna
I went to
blame
a couple games last year.
They want to blame the call-ups. I don't buy it, man. Everything just went to, crap. And they missed the playoffs. So when they were so comfortable, they had a nice cushion, and they were horrible in the second half. But it looks like Hartford is going to be younger next year. It's going to have to be. From a contract standpoint, you got kids coming over from Europe, kids graduating college, kids graduating from the CHL. They're now 20 years old. So I think I'd like to see a full year of Hartford out of Cooley as a top line guy or a top 6 guy. He could, in theory, he could make it. But remember, the Rangers are a 50-win team. They have cup aspirations. They already have a kid line. I don't know if adding, a kid like Cooley. I'd like to see him play, of course.
Right.
But if he's going to be like a crash and bang fourth liner, they got plenty of guys that they could sign, veteran types that could fill that role, and then let Cooley, because the AHL is a massive jump. People don't really give the AHL enough credit. How it really is the second best league in the world, better than the KHL, better than the Sweden, Finland. All those leagues could go take a back seat to the AHL. The AHL is legit because everyone there knows they're one injury away from a promotion and the nice hotels and then and more money. So I'd like to see Cooley, just pay his dues in the A. And then be one of the first kids called up if something happens injury wise or someone's struggling.
Yeah, it was funny. People are mentioning is Ken Janander still coaching Hartford? No, he is not.
Play a coach.
Play a coach. Yeah, he was a bad Ranger too.
Wasn't he on the '97 team? Didn't they call him up for like 2? I think it was like a couple of games.
I just remember making fun of that guy,
Daniel Gano.
Oh, yeah. Daniel Gano's, I used to call him.
He beat the Devils. Yeah, that one great game against the Devils.
Yeah. Yeah. People asking something about what is this? Are they going to force Cooley and Othman play on their off wing because of the log jam? Who knows?
They both played either wing in junior. So I want to say Othman is a left shot who plays right wing, right? And then Cooley's a right shot who plays left wing. I think I got it mixed up, but I don't think it matters. They rush the puck to the net. They're strong. They're physical. The way they shoot the puck, it's almost like from a prospect standpoint, it's near elite. They both have outstanding shots, so I don't think it matters where they play. Just my opinion.
Well, a lot of Ranger fans wanted Brennan Othman. I don't know how they were, a lot of times these people are just really not. Listen, I'm not claiming to be an expert on everything in hockey, but when Ranger fans were claiming that they should bring Brennan Othman up for the playoffs, I was like, I don't think it's never going to happen. Why are you just even throwing this out there? But I heard Othman interviewed today, and he said the two players that he really wants, he loves is Matthew Tkachuk and Kyle Connor of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Which are diametrically just opposite players. Kyle Connor won the Lady Bing. Matthew Tkachuk is a monster.
Yeah.
But they both can score, obviously. Who would you say that he plays more like? Or maybe there isn't a comparison, maybe any comparison.
He reminds me of Adam Deadmarsh. You remember Adam Deadmarsh?
Yeah.
Yep.
The guy in Colorado. Maybe a little bit of Billy Guerin. I know we're all going to date ourselves here, but there was a point where the Rangers, when during the dark ages of 98 to 04, they weren't a tough team to play against. So we all wanted the power forward, the scoring power forward, like a Keith Tkachuk or an Adam Deadmarsh or a Billy Guerin. Where they could shoot it, they could fight if they have to. They're physical. They finish their checks. So Matt Tkachuk, I would say Othman, because Matt Tkachuk, if you watch him play, he's more methodical. He's not like a buzzsaw out there smacking people around on the forecheck. Maybe Othman will dial that back a little bit once he gets to the AHL. If he's, especially because you don't want to get hurt. It's play that style. Othman, and I noticed that in the playoffs this year, in the OHL playoffs, he wasn't launching himself into people like he did the year before in Switzerland or in 1920 in the OHL. But I think that he's a power forward. He's a power wing, and so Kyle Connor. Maybe like the speed down the wing with the shot. I could see similarities size-wise. I think they're around the same height. But, so it's like a mean Kyle Connor. You know, an angry,
Okay, all right.
an angry, undisciplined Kyle Connor. I don't know. Is that
He also mentioned that he's not able to go to Hartford right this year if the Rangers don't. I think
no?
he's
I don't
got to
think
go
he
back.
is.
He's got to go back.
Maybe
to
late in the
Windsor.
season.
Maybe late in the season. So, but so out of Cooley and Othman, who do you like better?
Othman, yeah. But not. It's not by much. I think they're, Othman. I got a chance to see him live at the U18 World Championships, and I was, writing my notes down like this kid is fantastic. Only reason why I was not giddy about the pick was because he's a wing. It's like, okay, we
Right.
have all these wings,
Yeah, we
Capo,
got
Lafreniere, Kravtsov. Yeah, he's got legit 30 goal potential. I know I said that about Kako too, but
but it's again, it's a roll of
yeah,
the dice.
Othman, jury's 2 drafts, and we'll get into it, I'm sure. But he has a type, and we saw what happened in the playoffs, where it's like, dude, where's the effort? What happened in the second period against Pittsburgh in game 1? Like, just stop playing. Pittsburgh, go ahead and dominate us, please.
Right.
Carolina, go ahead and dominate us. We're not happy with.
Dude,
we don't like the puck. You take it. Like, no, I don't like that.
I think Shesterkin is going to be worn out, and they got to fix that.
Well, it's like Hank's early years. Remember, like Hank against the Buffalo series, where clearly Rangers were overmatched. They had no business being there, and Hank, if it wasn't for stupid Drury.
Right.
People are like, why are you so anti-Chris Drury? I'm like, do you have any idea what that guy did to me?
I didn't even like his face.
And then we signed him, and he stinks.
He stinks. Right. He's one of the worst captains we ever had. He's got a face like he swallowed a lemon. Jim hates him.
Steve, he is literally my most hated Ranger of all time.
Yeah.
But as
my most hated Ranger.
I love him.
Yeah, I had to give him credit, though, because he built a pretty good team. A lot of it was Gordon, but he pushed the right buttons last year.
I mean, you got the trading deadline alone. Everything was a hit.
Steve, we've kind of got some questions coming in from the chat. They're a little all over the place, but that's okay. We got a question from Mario who wanted to know if you know anything about the defenseman the Rangers got for Patrick Nemeth today, Ty Emberson.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ty Emerson.
Which, by the way, was an amazing trade. He unloaded Nemeth's contract, got a live body and a draft pick, right?
Dude, okay, so here we are bashing Drury. That is a wonderful trade because I could not stand Nemeth. I thought that he
I don't know about that. Wasn't he brought in to teach Niels Lundqvist Swedish?
That pairing was terrible. With all due respect to Niels, he's a young kid, but that pairing. You know what's funny about Nemeth? He cost Colorado the Vegas series.
Yeah,
because I do a team by team preview. But anyway, back to Emberson. So Emberson was on the NTDP back in 2018, and I believe he and Keandre Miller were partners.
Oh,
well, they might have been on. I forgot if Emerson is a lefty or righty, but he played at Wisconsin. He played at Wisconsin as well. So Emerson is physical and he could skate and very good defensive defenseman. The offense didn't really develop in college and thereafter, but he is a kid. He's physical and he could skate and he's got size. Puck management is pretty good. He's like a no nonsense meat and potatoes type. Not going to try to go coast to coast or anything like that. So you could say addition by subtraction, but I'm a huge Emerson fan. I think he was in Arizona prospect, and I don't know what happened to him. Is that who they traded Nemeth to, Arizona?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And they got a draft pick and Ty Emberson back in the deal.
That's
beautiful. A third or fourth round, something like that. And
that's beautiful. So we got rid of Nemeth and we got a prospect, maybe a C, between a C and a B level prospect and a draft pick. By Nemeth.
And another guy he's another guy that I noticed, another one of these college guys. The Rangers, they like these.
Drury's USA. He wants all these college guys.
Yeah,
right.
Which I'm glad because I feel like I know this is blasphemy. I used to love the mystique of the Russians, from back in the day. This unknown quantity. They're supposed to be,
Now I'm just sick and tired of waiting for guys. I don't know if he could come. And that brings me to, I guess, the question that was going to be asked. What about Kravtsov? Let me just say, I collect hockey cards, and I invest in it. I got about $2,000 worth of cards of Kravtsov. Is he going to play? Well, we don't know if he's going to play.
I don't know,
man. Damaged or what?
I mean, the pick was a little. I liked him. The pick was a little controversial for me, a little off the board. Another situation where it looks like Gordy Clark fell in love with his postseason, which is what happened with Elias Anderson. And I agree with that to a degree, where the postseason is to me more important and more indicative than, let's say, a tournament like Slavkovsky dominated all these tournaments. But how do you play in the postseason on his league team?
League team. Yeah.
So with Kravtsov, listen, he seems more comfortable in Russia. We all know the drama. He wants to play. All right, that's a good thing. But it's the situation that the Rangers kind of created themselves because Kreider got extended, Panarin's Panarin. They won back-to-back lotteries where they had to pick wings. They weren't going as much as we would have, in retrospect, liked to have Trevor Zegras or Mo Seider instead of Capo Caco. There was no alternative. The Devils took Jack Hughes. You take Capo Caco. You win the lottery in 2020. You draft the wing. You don't draft the center Byfield. You take Lafreniere, and that looks like it was a smart decision. So it's kind of like bad luck for Kravtsov, the ping pong ball. It's basically because if the Rangers don't win those lotteries, they probably draft a defenseman and a center. You know what I mean? And so we're looking at Kravtsov a guaranteed lock to be on that first or second line by 2022. And now we're like third line at best right now, because if they decide to bump up Lafreniere, I guess to replace Vetrano, would that be the replacement?
Vetrano is what, the right wing on that line?
Yeah, and then the Panarin, Trocheck, and maybe I don't know. There's three wings that we're all waiting for them to explode, right? The 3 first-round picks, Kako, Lafreniere, and Kravtsov, and you could only all 3 of them are not going to be in the top 6. So is Kravtsov going to be happy on a third line?
Because I think my take from that, first of all, there was a room, and I don't know if you heard this, that he got dressed down by Chris Drury at a practice, I think. I don't know what it was. And I don't think he really understands what it takes to play in the NHL. Like, you start off at the bottom. You don't. He's probably like, and Kent was like, I'm better than half these guys. Why aren't I playing? And that goes to his immaturity. I don't know. I think both sides have blame. The Rangers got to learn they got unlimited resources outside of the cap. And they just, they got Buchnevich and Shesterkin taking a freaking ride by themselves. They should be chauffeured around. He gets hurt, the whole thing back.
It's sad. It's sad. What upset me about Kravtsov is, although the stats didn't look great from his, 2021 season, I thought he looked good. He was on the 4th line, and he earned a promotion to the Panarin line.
Right.
And so we had, the kid line wasn't built for the last season. It was built by David Quinn. And that kid line was really good. Hedl, Kako, Lafreniere. And they did a podcast about it. And then you have Kravtsov playing from the 4th line. And even on the 4th line, he was not productive, but he was just visible. He was generating.
Scoring a nice goal. Wasn't it one where he was like falling down and he put it in? I don't know, it was a preset. But I could see, that's again, we'll go back to Kako. I could see that this guy had something.
Yeah, he definitely does. Yeah.
That's all I need to see with a young guy. But I mean, why is he going to come back to the U.S. and play other than try to make the team, right? I know he has got no trade value. I mean, at this point.
Maybe, like I said, he saw the postseason.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could have been a part of that if I just kept my freaking mouth shut and I was a good worker bee. And I'm like, yeah, I'll play in the 4th line. I'll do whatever you can. he would have been a nice option to have. I mean, the fourth line outside of a couple, Rooney's gone, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
he's gone. He was terrible in the postseason.
Terrible.
Reeves, he has his moments. Okay,
Oh, no, I hate Reeves.
but I'm saying he has his moment. Like he has a purpose. I'm with the
What's the
goonery
purpose,
and
though, Steve? He doesn't fight. He had 4 fights the whole year. Yeah, he hits. But very disappointed with him. I mean,
Yeah, but like, so you have like Kravtsov on a fourth line. You could maybe like tinker things. Maybe have him as the dedicated guy with Strome and Panarin. Like there were always possibilities. So maybe that's what he's like. Yeah, I could have been a part of that. Look how much fun these young kids have. And I remember them from camp or Hartford, playing with them last year. So maybe he felt guilty.
Yeah, I hear. And you never know. Guys go down, and then he could be moved up. I mean, there's a lot of things that could go on. I mean, I don't want to kill Reeves, but he's older. Everybody on the Rangers after the second round was completely gassed, and he was the gassiest.
yeah.
Gassiest.
All right, Jim, back
He
to
blew
you.
his whole load in that first period of game 1 against Pittsburgh.
Oh, man, that was the best
was
period
it.
of the playoffs.
That was it.
They're hitting everybody. I'm like, this is domination. I'm getting
That was it. That was it.
Yeah.
So before we get to this year's draft pick, Steve, I'm going to add, besides Othman and besides Will Cooley and whoever else we've talked about, who else in the last couple of years that the Rangers have drafted, who else has got you excited? Who else do you think?
Jones. Zach Jones.
Zach Jones?
Yeah.
I like Zach Jones too.
Yeah, so I watched a lot of Hartford this year. I actually took a break for a month from watching the draft kids because I had everything already mapped out. And so I watched, I think it was February, I watched nothing but the AHL. And Jones was the legitimate number one guy in that team, defenseman. Yep. He was the guy that controlled everything. He was the most reliable. The veteran forwards, the veteran defenseman on the Wolfpack would, acquiesce duties to him. He's confident. He's got a hell of a shot. He's almost like a fourth forward out there, but he's the size. I don't think will ever be an issue. You talk about IQ. This kid's IQ is through the roof. The issue was that I think he's a left shot, whereas Nils and Schneider are right. So that's
Nils
why
Lundqvist is here, by the way. This pencil. What's going on with that guy's weight? That guy's got. I saw a couple of Hartford games. I was like, this guy. It's gonna be a tough road for this guy to the NHL at that weight he's playing at.
Who, Jones?
No, Lundqvist.
Oh yeah. He was always a smaller guy though, and I've seen him I've stood next to him before. I've seen him at tournaments. He's not big. He's not very big, but he was very good in Sweden. Very good in Sweden.
Because they were paired together, right? Jones and Lundqvist most of the year, I think.
Yeah. And Robertson was paired, I think, too, also with Schneider or Jones. But he's the guy. And then the other kid I'm a big fan of is Barad, the agitator. But he's got a lot of skill playing for Providence in Hockey East, the college. Another wing. We have all these wings, an abundance of wings, abundance of defensemen. But if you would say take away Kravtsov, take away Othman, take away Cooley, to me, Jones is their best prospect right now, not playing in the NHL. I think that his upside is really pretty high. But
were you surprised?
I
know Braden Schneider was, certainly, well touted before he played. But what did you think about his playoff performance? I thought he was great, like for what he was, or maybe you give me the grimace there. You're free to.
Yeah, it was a learning experience.
Well, he got caught out of position a couple times.
Here's the thing, I viewed it. You got to look at it two ways. First, you got to look at it as I'm a fan. I want my team to freaking win. And then you got to look at it as like I'm a fan. I want my team to be set long term. In the short term, he drove me freaking crazy. The Braun Schneider pairing was trapped in it seemed like both Pittsburgh and Carolina knew that all 6 Rangers defensemen, and that includes Fox. Lindgren was the best that I think everybody, but that the Rangers defensemen were prone to fumble the puck, turn it over under the weight of a heavy forecheck or a heavy pressure forecheck.
Pressure the D, just that you could see.
Yeah, and so Braun and Schneider were the main. I mean, it was Brindamore. I think I even tweeted it out. Or I talked about it, where Brindamore made it a point to get the Aho line matched up against those. So he was changing on the fly if it wasn't a draw. But again, forget about that. He's a young kid. He got his first taste of, I mean, think about the teams that Schneider played against. He played against the Crosby Malkin Penguins, and they were playing fantastic. The Penguins. I hate them, but you got to admit, they look freaking dominant in that series. They played against the best team in the East, the Carolina Hurricanes, and then the freaking Tampa Bay Lightning, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion. So that's a great learning experience for Schneider. When he plays teams like, San Jose and Ottawa, he's going to be like, oh, okay.
Right.
So it's going to be good for him, but
short term,
it would have been nice if they had someone like a veteran maybe on the right side to plug in. But I don't think the bottom pairing and the fourth line, like Rooney, definitely cost them, I think, at least one game.
Yeah.
But I like Schneider. He's growing on me. I didn't like the pick at the time. But clearly you see what they like. I don't think he's ever going to really put up points, but I don't think you really care because you're going to get that out of Fox and Trouba and I think Miller too.
Yeah.
Jim, any more questions from the chat room?
Let's see. Somebody was asking about Brett Berard, which you covered. I don't think so. By the way, speaking of Justin Braun, I don't know if you saw this. He went back to the Flyers, so he was a true rental.
It really was.
He was a true rental. The Rangers brought him back clean and full of gas.
He was I think serviceable.
I thought he was too.
Again, every guy he picked up by the trading deadline was.
And they're all gone. They're all gone.
They're all gone.
They're all gone.
Lamont hasn't officially landed anywhere, has he?
No, I don't believe so. But according to my source, who's Eddie Geik, Drury said
Dan Rosen said he was on the Zoom call with Drury, and that Drury, when they asked about Mott, Drury was kind of like, we're looking for a different type of player. And then they said, well, what kind of player are you looking for? And they're like a bargain basement center. So don't ask me.
Wasn't that Tyler Mott? Was he only making like $750? I mean, how much more
bargain afford that?
In NHL terms, how much more bargain basement?
Mott is battle tested though. He's been on 2 deep playoff runs at least. One with Vancouver,
I
with
like
the Rangers.
Mott. But they should.
I liked him a lot.
They got $8 left on the cap. They can't get Mott. So I don't know. I don't know about that. Anybody more? Because I just want to. So now I can act like an expert.
One more question that just came in. Are there any other goaltenders in the pipeline that are working their way up, or
the they didn't qualify Wall, right? So he's
right. Tyler Wall.
Husker was up and down last year in Hartford. There was a point where I'm like, I'd rather have him than Georgiev, and then I was like, no. Keep him down there. The Limbaum kid, I don't think we could close the book on him just yet. He's the guy that when they drafted him, I was so freaking mad. But
he was a second round pick, right? That was the second round pick, wasn't it?
I was so mad, and I'm like in the stands in so it was 2018. I think it was in Dallas was where the draft was that year, and people sitting next to me has been like, why are you so passionate? Why do you care so much about this second round pick? I'm like, do you have any idea who they just drafted and who they passed on? But anyway, he looks to be okay. The other Swedish kid, the big massive one, Olas, he's pretty good. He's developing fine. The concern right now. Oh, and then Garand. Garand was
Garand,
very
yeah,
good
that was-
for. I want to
was
say
on-
Kamloops. Wasn't he? He was.
Was he on the
Kamloops'
junior team? Was he on the Canadian junior team? That dude.
Yeah, but he was on. I want to say that he was on Kamloops, and they went to the WHL final against Seattle. It was actually a really good series, and Garand was very good, excellent. Kamloops was one of the best teams in WHL this year, and Garand was their number one. So though he's not a big guy, that's kind of like progression wise. That's what you want to see. So I think the goaltending situation is above average if you compare it to the other teams. When you have
That's
Ola
pretty good.
Slingbaum, Huska, and Garand, and I'm forgetting somebody else, Boyko. So you know what we have to be concerned about Igor's health, but one thing that we learned is Benoit Allaire is a magician, and that he could turn. Look what happened with Henrik. We always worried about Henrik, but Henrik's backups, whether it was B-Ron, frickin' Skapsky, and his 3 wins or 2 wins against Buffalo.
Against Buffalo, yeah.
Alex Auld.
Ranta.
Ranta was good. Cam
Who was
Talbot.
the other guy?
Talbot.
Yeah, Talbot.
great.
He was stabilizing the season. Was it back in 2014 or 15? So that I think no matter whom the Rangers draft, goaltending wise, or who they sign as free agent, they'll always find a capable backup for Igor. That if Igor goes down, they'll have someone to summon. But I think the pipeline's in pretty good shape, goaltending wise.
Okay. Somebody said Garand is the future. Maybe when I'm 70 years old, he'll be the future because goaltenders have a long learning curve.
Yeah.
This is a question that I have. Like each league, like the United States Hockey League, right?
Yeah.
The development league. And then you got the OHL, and then we got the Quebec major, all these, and the WHL or whatever. What is the prototype player for each league? Like, I remember last time I talked to you, the Q was always considered a very scoring league. Well, is it that way? And how do the leagues correspond, or is it just even?
The OHL jumped it. If you want to just look at the raw numbers, goals per game, the OHL is the highest scoring. I'm pretty sure the OHL is the highest scoring junior league in the world, like that develops NHL prospects. So you look at the J20 Super Elite or National in Sweden, the SM Sarge in Finland, the MHL Russia, ELJ in the Czech Republic, USHL here in the States, and then of course the 3 major junior leagues in Canada. The OHL is the big run and gun league. The Quebec League, though, is the smallest. They have like so many guys on a standard Quebec League team who are 5'8", 5'7", 5'9", defensemen, goalies. So I don't know if it's in the water in Quebec.
Short French people.
Yeah, but that's what I've noticed. But really, in the end, although USA Hockey's turning for the changing for the better or is improving, and teams are definitely drafting more players away from Canadian Majors Junior, the OHL and the WHL is still, in my opinion, 1 and 2 in terms of developing NHL talent. So many GMs and scouts and assistant GMs and scouting directors are CHL veterans. They played in the NHL before that. They played, Canadian Major Junior. So it makes the transition, I guess, easier to go from, being billeted and, doing the traveling on the buses across Canada, friggin' 8, 9, 10-hour road trips. Not that the European kids don't do that as well, but I don't think there's like, a junior league or a pool that you could say they make the best players. I think it's all, college, you get the bigger defensemen, the more two-way type, physically mature, stronger, more muscle. European elite leagues, you get the professional aspect where they get a paycheck, they make a lot of money. So when they come to the States, won't be blown away by, making $15,000, $25,000 a month or whatever they get in the beginning. maybe more than that. So it all varies really, and there's really there's no silver
No set.
bullet.
What about this is the thing I have tough buying, and like these Swedes are playing like in the Swedish Elite League, that they play with men. They're playing against men already. How much weight does that really? Is that an overrated thing? I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes that when they come here, it really doesn't matter much. I mean, is that something you agree with, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, the more I've done this, and you could blame Cat going away for it for dominating the SM Liga and dominating the World Championships and saying, oh, well, he's playing against men. Whereas I'm like, wait a minute, I did the research. I'm like, Stamkos never played against men. Tavares never played against men. Crosby never played against men. Go down the list of all-star, superstar. Braden Point never played against men. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like this. It seems like we're all, and the teams mention this in their post-draft interviews. They'll say, we like him. He's played against men.
Yeah, it's a cliche.
I mean, it is a cliche because in the end, I think what offsets that advantage is the cultural change. So you're playing against men in Europe, and you're in a European city and European culture and European diet and European women, and now you're coming over to North America and you're dealing with it's a massive change, to go from, let's say, Prague to, a USHL city or a, Western Canadian city where all you have is like one shopping mall and a bunch of truck stops.
Right.
And I'm not trying to disparage those places. It's just, it's the reality,
Right.
So I don't think it really, some leagues like the Czech leagues are more physical. So like a guy like Hedel, it might have tempered him when he got to North America because he was used to getting hit. Whereas in Sweden and Finland, it's not as physical. To me, the Russian leagues are the closest to North American hockey because some of those teams like really they freaking hate each other. Like big rivalries, and you see it in the play, like knee on knee hits and Marty McSorley style whack jobs to the head. But I don't think, the more I do this, the more I realize, like, if the kid destroys the junior leagues, then who cares what he does against the men? He destroyed his own age group. So when he's 25, the kids that he destroyed, they're going to be 25 as well, or 24 and 26. So that's how you got to look at it. Unless the priority for the draft is to get kids who are going to be ready the fastest, and maybe if they played against men, that accelerates the promotion.
But the rink sizes are different there in Sweden as well, right? So that's another adjustment that they have to make. I want to just, I swear, Jim, this will be the last question I have outside of the fix. Do you think, I have a conspiracy theory, that Canada hates the state teams? The Rangers get no love from Canada whatsoever, no matter how good they're doing. Even with their season, it just was Shesterkin. And you got to barely mention that, Kreider had 52 goals, or Adam Fox is arguably the best Ranger power play quarterback since Brian Leach. I mean, all these. I feel like there is a bias.
Always.
Good. I'm glad. I'm not screwy. This is
no. I think you guys been following the team longer than I have. But when I started becoming a Ranger fan, the Rangers were always the team that would focus on Europeans and American kids and college kids. Whether the guys running the team were Canadian or American, Craig Patrick, in my opinion, he built the 94 team just as much as Neil Smith. And so the other thing was the narrative about the Rangers by the superstars.
Right. They bought a cup.
And so it's always been the case. And I remember when I used to live upstate near Syracuse, I used to get the CBC Kingston. So I would watch Hockey Night in Canada. And it was amazing how they always try to find, especially during the Capitals series, let's say in 2012, they tried to find the Canadian angle, and the Canadian angle was Braden Holtby, and they would always talk about him. I'm like, dude, the frickin' Rangers are a 50-win team. Like Lundqvist just had a hard caliber season. Talk about the Rangers, and they don't do it. It's always been the case, to this day, that the Canadian media, they have this thing against the Rangers. And if you have to watch a national broadcast and you get in the Canadian feed, you're going to get, they'll find someone on the other team who's Canadian, and that will be the focus.
It'll be the focus point.
Yeah.
Right. Like Chris
That's my theory, at
Letang.
least.
What is he? Chris Letang never runs out of gas or something. Oh, actually, I think it was Sam Rosen.
He was fresh.
It was fresh. After
No,
4 years.
yeah.
That's infuriating about watching a Ranger game with Sam. They talk about the other team the whole game. I don't know what's going on.
You know what? I look at it this way. In '94, Gary Thorne and Bill Clement was so pro. They were so pro Ranger on national television for ESPN. I think that was like, okay, we can never have that happen again. We can't have a pro Ranger broadcast like that. And Gary Thorne used to do Devils games. Yeah, that was a funny thing. Right. They were in love with the Ranger Cup run. So, but I've accepted it. When I watch a Canadian feed, the Canadian media, and the thing about the Canadian media, they really have no real grasp or pulse on the Rangers. They don't care about them, so they always kind of misevaluate them, or if that's even a word. They just when I hear them talk about the Rangers, I feel like they don't really have a pulse of what's really going on.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was when I was watching TSN today. They were talking. They had this girl there in the studio with them. I don't know her name, and she was so excited that Andrew Kopp was going to Detroit. You would think she was getting like she was his agent.
Yeah,
but she's like, I'm so glad because I think Andrew Kopp was the guy who most. How did she put it? Most improved his value in the playoffs. And I'm like, what? He was terrible in the playoffs. I mean, he had a couple of goals early.
He had a strong reputation before that, so that's nonsense.
But I was like, did you even watch? I mean, so it's just funny that you mentioned like that they have no finger on the pulse because she had no clue. She had no clue. She didn't watch one game of the Rangers in the playoffs. I guarantee it.
Right. And Detroit is almost like Canada South, so she was probably happy about that too.
Right.
Yeah. We will never get love from north of the border as Ranger fans. Never. And then they put the Boston guy McDonough to do the games.
Does that carry over to like the drafting as well, like from the US, like the USHL? Do they not scout it as hard? Or
and listen, I'm gonna insult some people that I know and that I have a relationship with, but the reality is that the mentality in Canada is that Canadian Majors Junior. I know I just said that they're the best at developing, the dub and the O, but that they really think that the USHL is like a step below, and it's not. And we've actually had, especially beginning in 2019, where the USHL and the NTDP have outdrafted Canadian Major Junior. I mean, the OHL, like the USHL outdrafted the OHL. That's bananas if you said that, let's say, if you predicted that 30 years ago. So there is this. Listen, Canada has this obsession with us. They always have everything. What's America doing? American politics and America this.
Right,
whereas we Americans, we barely have time to think about the town over, and we're going to care about what's going on in Canada. So it's like this big brother, little brother type thing. I experience it all the time. The people that give me the most hell.
Who? I want you to name names.
Always Canadian. Young Canadian
the
men.
Committee right now.
Young Canadian men have it out for me. So but we love. Where would we be without them? That's the way I look at it. We need Canada. So
I think there's still
our head would get cold. There'd be no America's hat without Canada.
That's right.
Do you remember the '96 World Cup? Remember the '96 World Cup with Richter?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
Summer '96. I don't go off the subject, but it's just to make a point about the difference between Canada and America. They they showed like the hallway of the Canadian locker room, and it was full with cards from like kindergarten kids, like,
Oh,
please,
yeah.
Eric, win the game for us. And the American, there was nothing. The Americans like,
nothing.
yeah, you know, people, we barely even knew that tournament was played. And so they think it's their game. They don't like when the Americans, like the Rangers, red, white, and blue, they draft nothing but American kids. I think that's part of it.
Right. They think it's their game. And also, I'm telling you, that 80 win against the Russians killed them.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to be the team that beat the Russians. And the 1980 team, I've heard it by a lot of Canadian fans. They call it the fluke on ice instead of the miracle on ice.
They have 72 with the Summit Series,
right?
Massively overrated. Bobby Clark broke Harlamov's ankle, and the Canadians gooned it up, just like the '87 Canada Cup. Gooned it up on Canadian ice at Hamilton, the Cubs Coliseum. Freaking poor Russians, Makarov getting their heads chopped off.
Who was the guy that they worship up there? He scored a big goal in that Summit Series.
Paul Henderson.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, they worship that Paul Henderson. They love him.
The Summer Series was a big deal. I recommend that anybody has a chance to go back and watch it, because you have to realize the buildup to get that tournament to happen, where for years it was like, we're the best, no, we're the best. And so that's why it's such a big deal to Canadians. But
wasn't it like an 8-game series?
Yeah. It was good hockey. You watch it if you get past the grainy video and the pace.
Yes, that's you hit the nail on it. I have a lot of vintage videos, and I'll try to watch a game and go, oh my God, how slow. Whistles every second. They go along the boards.
But you didn't think it was slow at the time.
No, at the time, no.
I watched the mid-'80s series against the Flyes. I wasn't like, at the time, like, oh, this is terrible hockey. It's just the Rangers upset the Flyes. It shouldn't count because it's slow. No, you didn't think that. Like,
okay, let's get down to business. Get to beeswax. I felt like I've interrogated you, so I'm going to hand it over to Jim and take a swig of my non-alcoholic.
All right, so after an hour and 20 minutes, I think we're ready to talk about the 2022 draft. Steve, thank you so much. I hope thank your wife for letting you hang out.
She's home. I left the girls and the wife at home. I'm here. I'm in my paradise.
Oh, great, super.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. We don't know anything about these guys. So I guess we'll start with Adam Sikora. He was their top pick. Give us a little insight on Sikora.
All right, so he might have been the most energetic forward eligible for the draft. This kid, so I'm watching Nitra because of Simon Nemec, and we knew about Nemec for a couple of years. And so when I'm, preparing my list, right, to who I'm going to watch, I'm watching this freaking kid on the fourth line, and he just doesn't stop moving, and it's structured too. It's not like he's a chicken with his head cut off. So physical, quick, IQ wise, you want to kind of like interdict the route, meaning that you're going to sense where the puck is going to end up, and you have to predict that the defenseman is going to reach that spot while he's skating at max speed. So to beat him to that spot, you have to not only be faster, you have to take a direct route. You can't oblique or indirect. You got to go straight for it. And he usually was there cutting that defenseman who was trying to break out and enter the zone on his own. Sikora was usually there, left or right side. Left or right side wouldn't matter. He would cover a lot of ground, cover a lot of ice. So expert penalty killer. You want to talk about offense. He didn't really play against kids his age that much. And so here's the thing. Has anybody mentioned Fitzgerald's press conference after the draft?
No, nobody's mentioned
the GM of the Devils.
No.
This is a big deal. Okay. So you know how like they're all so tight-lipped, they don't tell you what their lists look like, and they say, "Oh, it's on the board, fell, blah blah blah." Fitzgerald, after they drafted Nemeth, they were asking, someone asked him a question like, well, what do you think about the Slovaks and whatever? And he said, yeah, we were, and I'm paraphrasing, so I apologize, but I think you'll get the gist. He said, yeah, we really liked Nemeth a lot and Slavkovsky. And then he paused and he goes, and Sikora too. And this was after the Rangers drafted him. So you could basically deduce from that the Devils were high on Sikora and that the Rangers might have, I don't know what the draft was like. The Devils did not have they drafted Casey at 46, but maybe the Devils were hoping that he would fall to them later on. But I thought that was interesting that Sikora was a guy that the GM of our rival mentioned his name in a post-draft press conference. Right. Very rare.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You certainly don't want to give the credit to the.
Yeah, so I like the pick, by the way. I support the pick.
Good. All right. So then we have Bryce McConnell Barker, center.
Yeah. Like him a lot. Big kid. He could skate. I know there are reports out there that said he doesn't skate that well, and his compete level, I don't buy it. I have to disagree with them respectfully. He was a high OHL priority pick, I think 4th overall. So he was a kid who's always been on the radar. He was a projected late first round, early second round pick. Entering this year, the Sioux were a loaded team, really loaded. And so they have one of the best centers in the game in Rory Cairns. So it's not like he was going to be the number one center on that team to begin with, but he basically played himself into the second line center role. And in the postseason, the coach was just feeding him minutes, power play, penalty kill. So he's a guy that I was noticing, first guy in on the forecheck, first guy on the back check to catch up to the opposing puck carrier. The structure, he's got to work on it, but he could be a playmaker, very good shot. He could score from the circles. I expect him to have a big explosion point-wise next season. But because it looks like the Sioux are going to graduate a bunch of guys. But I love the pick. I had him ranked 38th or 39th. And in my office, I have a dry erase board, and I have what I call the big bump list. And the big bump list is basically kids that I'm like, I don't care what the rankings say, what Bob McKenzie says or whatever. These kids are getting bumped like 30, 40, 50, 60 spots. And he was my number 2 on that big bump list behind Jordan Gustafson, the center for Seattle in the dub. And they both went in the 3rd round, but whatever. To me, they're first round caliber. Late first round, early second round caliber.
Was there anybody at that spot, well, at Sikora's spot, that you thought, because I know you have your favorites.
Yeah.
I watched back at some of the old shows, and you got your favorites. Who were your favorites coming in so far for the first and second round?
Well, the Russians. I was a big Russian guy because politics aside, we don't know what the world's going to be like 5 years from now when these kids are in their prime and they're in North America more than likely. And that's why I was against the idea that teams should avoid Russians because of what's going on. And there's confusion and you'll never sign them. I always use the Kaprizov example where they drafted him in 2015, like the 5th round, and he stayed there for 5 years. And now he's one of the best players in the game.
Yep.
And so I felt like the Russians had a couple of plays in this draft who could be potentially one of the top players, at least on their team. And, Paravalov, Trakazov. And so I would have liked the Rangers to have drafted them, but I was very happy with the first 2 picks.
Okay, that brings us to Noah. I don't know how to say his last name right. Laba.
Yeah.
Igor Liba. Igor Liba. You know that guy?
This kid's big.
He is he's an overager. So right off the bat, you're like, all right, a kid who already got passed over. But he really was, one of the best players on his team. He's not just a physical kid. And I said he was a pain in the ass to play against. He's got skill. He's got hands. He could stick handle. he's got this explosive first step. Like, we talk about Kako beating people to spots. So I could see what the Rangers saw in him, where you have a kid with leadership traits. He's physical, he's aggressive, he's a good skater, but he's also skilled. He could be a playmaker, he could score, he could make moves in front of the net. And the USHL it's a pretty physical league. It's not an easy league to score in. And so I thought that out of all the overages, he was one of the better ones. So another pick that, ideally, I don't like the overage thing because those kids don't hit as well in the later rounds as the first year eligibles, but it makes sense. So he could play center. He's a center. He could play wing, but I think he's going to be a center for them. Good size, can move, but now with 3 picks in, and all 3 picks fit into that same category, right? Physical, intense, effort, above average speed. That's what they want.
Seems to be a pattern with the new GM, and I guess his new scouting department. How about so that brings us to Vittorio Mancini.
Yeah, very familiar with him. I don't know if he's Victor now. But
Victor Vittorio. Okay, he might be. I think it's Victor.
Here's the thing with him, very interesting. So he's a double overager, and he's a defenseman, and he played for Nebraska Omaha. I didn't see him play last year, so I have no idea what he did as a college freshman. But I watched him a lot because he was one of those rare rarities where he's an American kid who went to Sweden to play junior hockey, and he played for the Frölunda program, which has Carl Henriksen that the Rangers drafted.
Who you love? You love that pick. What's going on with Carl Henriksen?
Well, he's the number 1 center in the prospect pool for a long time. I think he's coming over. I think he's.
I hope so. You were chatting. Okay, so go on.
Good playmaker, Henriksen. But anyway, so you have to assume that the Rangers in 2019-20, saw Mancini because they were, watching Henriksen, and this kid looked really good. He's a big kid, but he's got soft hands. What I look for is with these big guys is how they handle pucks, how they handle passes, where like, can they receive a pass and then in one motion send it another direction, whether it be, back to the point, high to low, stretch pass up ice, a home run pass, whatever you want to say, call it. So I like that. I like his footwork. He was physical. He would deliver a big hit every now and then. So I'm going to assume that, I felt like he should have been drafted back in 2020 and maybe even again last year. But I'm going to assume that in college with Nebraska Omaha, that the Rangers were waiting for him to maybe fix an area, whether it be his first step quickness or his structure. I don't know. I always thought he was pretty structured before this year, but he's a double overage defenseman, and I like him. But there were 2 Russian kids on the board, Grudinin and Karamazov. These kids have top pairing potential. They got knocked down because of the whole Russia thing, but Carolina got one, St. Louis got the other, and we got the double overage. Yeah,
so, you would think
I'm rooting for the kid. I'm going to root for the kid, but
Jim likes him because he's Italian.
Well, yeah, we like the Italians. Yeah. What made this kid at 17 years old go play in Frölunda?
Was it a development? Maybe it's interesting that I really.
It's just not something you hear very often.
Maybe he had a Swedish girlfriend.
Maybe
it could be. But it was really good for his development because let's say he wanted to gauge where he was a notable prospect, in his Bantam age, 13, 14. So he was a kid that was on the radar for a while. And, he goes to Frölunda, and I think he was even paired with Simon Edvinsson, the top 10 pick for Detroit last year. So Frölunda's got it loaded. That program's loaded. It's got tons of prospects on it. And so he was able to play with really the elite of the elite in Sweden. And I'm just surprised he didn't get drafted before. So maybe the way you look at it is you look at him as the Rangers drafted him in 2020 when he was supposed to go. And now he's a freshman in college, about to be a sophomore. He'll be probably like, a number 1, number 2 within a couple of years, kill penalties, and then he'll get to Hartford and be, pretty polished.
Right.
Okay.
That sounds a pretty good pick. What, 5th round pick? Not bad. I mean, I see what you're saying. You could have gone with maybe, I don't know these Russian players, but maybe a more higher end, more potential, maybe goal scoring or something. Try to hit a home run, but it seems like everybody was kind of shy of going with Russia. But I kind of agree with you. You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years.
Yeah.
So speaking of Russian players, that brings us to Maxim Barbashev.
Yeah,
I like Maxim Barbashev because he's the brother of Ivan Barbashev, who I really like.
Yeah, he's a similar player, cut from the same cloth. Played for Moncton in the Quebec League. Good size, good skater. If you want to say a poor man's Othman, where he's flying down the wing, just drilling dudes, freaking knocking them on their rear end. But it's a controlled violence. It's not like out of control. And so he's got pretty decent puck skills. He's got a good wrist shot, good hands, operates well off the cycle. So another pick, I think I had him ranked like 135, like 140. So maybe 125, somewhere around there. So I got the guy who covers the Quebec League for me, Danny McGillicuddy. He's a New Yorker, so he's a Ranger fan
He
too.
posts on Facebook a lot.
Yeah. So he covers the Quebec League for me, and he's an ex-player. He used to play for the USHL.
I did not know that.
So I trust him, and he was a big fan of his game. But when I watch the guy myself, I'm like, all right, I see what he sees. It's just this aggressive forward check. Will he ever develop into a big time scorer or even like a 40-point guy? Probably not. But another part of this whole thing with the overages, I know the Barbie is not an overager, but it makes Hartford more competitive. So even if you draft guys just to make life tough or to create situations or an environment that is going to root out the weak of the top kids, like you don't want to have Hartford to be like a pushover and, oh yeah, you could play first line, first power play, no problem. When you have these kids show up there who have a couple of years on the younger prospects, they've been in the weight room more, they're in college. It's a little bit of a wake up call.
It's also good for the culture. It's good for the culture of the organization to have a winning AHL team, and which frankly we have not. The AHL has been a sore spot for the Rangers.
Right.
Well, when they did, they had like Chris Chahaki and
who's the other guy they had? Stephen King.
Stephen King.
That was the
he had the hat trick on ESPN against the Ducks or the Kings.
Yeah. That was the Binghamton Rangers, I think he played.
The Bingo Rangers, there you go. Yeah.
I used to love going to those games. See Dale
Corey Hirsch had that like that freaking
Peter Fiorentino. Do you remember that guy? He was the ultimate goon. 300 minutes.
Peter Laviolette, I think, played.
Yeah, I went to one of the few games he played as a Ranger, and he made a blunder at the blue line, couldn't keep the puck on net, and the other team scored. And I was like, this guy sucks.
You got to look at the old Ranger media guides in the system. And some of the names.
Oh, that was the best part.
What was the best part? Go to the back of the book.
Mark Heaslip.
What was his name? Mike Golden, Simon Wielden.
Mike Golden.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I was like,
what young fans don't realize is we had no access to these kids. So when they would show up, it's whatever John Davidson told you. He's like, oh, this guy was a time, like Rick Bennett. Right. You get so excited, like, oh, he's going to be 50-goal scorer, and they just vanish.
Yeah, there was so much mystery. Even like because I used to follow like the WHA, and these little stories would come through like, oh, Mark Tardif got clubbed by Rick Giadzio. It was one of the worst things. It was horrific, and I'm like, this is like got such mystery to it. And now I hunt on YouTube for any video of it, and there's no video of the actual hit, but there's the aftermath. The police came, he got arrested, whatever. But that's kind of missing now. The back of the year book. Lindsay Middlebrooks in our system. He's going to be the next goalie.
Lindsay Middlebrooks.
But
That's a good one.
yeah, those days are gone. But so far, it seems like you like what they're doing, right? I mean,
Under the circle, like I was looking at within the context of a 50-win plus team, a conference finalist, pretty strong prospect pool. Pantera, good taste.
yes,
The music.
She's a big Pantera fan.
Yeah, right.
And Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah. So I wasn't. They didn't have a first round pick. They did. I liked their draft last year, but I understand what George's trying to do. And John Lilly, his first draft.
I was going to ask you, what's John Lilly's background? I saw him speak.
Toronto. He was Kyle Dubas's scouting director. He was the guy that ran Toronto's drafts.
Okay.
And that I'm going to assume, again, I'm assuming speculation that Dubas was probably more hands-on with the analytics whereas Drury's a blood and guts freaking veteran NHL player who won, where he understands. Dubas is an administrative guy, whereas Drury is as much as we want to bash him for, he was a guy that we all wanted, almost like a poor man's Mark Messier to a degree. So I think that he probably conveyed that to Lilly and said, hey, analytics, I'm sure it's fine and dandy, but I want guys who are tough to play against. And the last two drafts, before Lilly and even this one, they all fit that same description.
And let's remember, like you said, Chris Drury was a poor man's Messier, a poor man's Joby Messier. How do you like that one?
Barry Richter. And Barry Richter was a poor man's Mike Richter.
Right.
Yes. Barry Richter. Wow.
So last on the list from Harvard, Zachary Karpa, son of Dave.
Dave Karpa's son.
Yep, Dave Karpa's son. So he was another guy similar to Mancini, where he was on the draft radar for a while. He played for the NTDP. And that NTDP wasn't as loaded as this year's or the one from 2018-19 that had Hughes and Zegras in them. So Karpa was a bottom six checker for them, but he was physical, fairly soft hands, I guess. He could handle a puck. But he's a center with size, a two-way type, a penalty killer, good on face-offs, and I guess that's what happened with him at Harvard this year. So, does he replace they didn't qualify Richards, right? Justin Richards?
No,
Right.
they didn't.
Okay, so he was the guy that they brought in with a reputation as being a shutdown two-way type. So one way to look at it is you're essentially replacing Richards on the depth chart, but Karpa, you got to wait for him to finish his education. So, average skater, average to below average skater, not going to put up a lot of points, but hard worker, physical, tough to move in front of the net, will support the defenseman down low, battles hard in the corners. Those are the things that he was just like when he was on the NTDP. That was his exact, his skill set was highlighted by defense and physicality.
Okay. So it looks like the Rangers just basically kind of address the needs they have now, but for the future. I think one of the big things that was glaring, and me and Jim have talked about it, is you got to have a very effective fourth line, especially in the playoffs. They've got to chip in. They've got to forecheck. They've got to be able to keep the puck in the zone. And I felt like the fourth line, whether it was Rooney and it was not Brashear. Jesus, please, that's racist. I mean,
Reeves, yeah.
Reeves, Revo, and who was the goof they had on that?
Dryden Hunt.
Well, they had Hunt. They had Mott.
I just feel like you can't.
They had
McKegg.
McKegg.
Go very far in the what?
McKegg.
Oh, he's gone too now, Greg McKegg.
Yes, he's gone too.
Greg McKegg 2.0.
You know who I liked? And I would have liked to see him. I mean, we talk about bringing Orthman up for the playoffs. I like Brodzinski. I was kind of.
He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad.
Size, effort, but. I agree though. If you want to build a fourth line at the draft and you're already a 50-win team, my only concern is that you look at what Sather did with the Edmonton drafts when the Oilers were the Oilers, and he just pissed away so many picks, trying to do all funky stuff and trying to get depth guys and physical defensemen and bypassing really good players. That he might have been concerned. Well, Gretzky and Messier are blocking him, so I don't want to draft him. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that you have to sometimes really go after the best players and not, the draft board differs from team to team. So the Rangers could have made a draft board and have nothing but physical guys on it.
Right.
And when they say, "Oh, that's how the board fell," yeah, so your board fell because your board was built to address a need.
I think they had interviewed Lilly, and he said they were basically just taking the best available.
Yeah, but their best available. Their best
Well,
they
that's
have a
true.
type.
That's true. That's right.
Their type is physical, aggressive. Because you can't tell me that Adam Sikora is a better prospect than, let's say, Kaliadelius, the defenseman that the Islanders took. That kid is a big defenseman who could skate and is a playmaker and can run a power play. So everybody and their mother had Odelius ranked, higher than Sikora. But when the Rangers made their board, they probably said, well, Odelius is like a finesse guy. Well, he's not a finesse guy, but so that's why fans have to realize that, like, when they say how the board fell, every team will make a draft board and it'll be based on what they want.
Right.
So if they want look at Arizona. Arizona said we wanted centers. Who did they draft with their first 2 picks? 2 centers. So, and that's how the board fell. No, that's how your board fell, because you had nothing but centers in the first 25 picks.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of subterfuge when these guys talk. That
of course, plenty of it.
You're getting a line of BS. They're never gonna show that they have a set way of doing things, and that they're going to the draft prepared to draft.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly we saw a lot of defensemen, and if you're going to build a fourth line, get these guys ready now, and they've got, like you said, energy guys guys who hit, they're gritty.
Yeah,
they're looking to turn it around that way. How about your boy Libor Hayek? You were very high on him, and I stand up for the guy, but Ranger fans, I don't think what does he get? And they signed him for another year. Why did they put this guy through the torture?
Pretty good scratch for the 9 games Gallant will dress him for.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's got a future in the league as a regular. I don't think he'll be like a very good regular, but he's a kid that the reason why I was always high on him was he played for bad teams, and he was the number 1 and number 2 on, so it's almost a situation like with the goalie. You kind of sometimes want the goalie on a bad team because they're seeing a lot of shots when they're young, instead of being on like a chase lounge and, posting up like a 2.0 goals against and a 920 save percentage, but they face 15 shots a game. So that's what I liked about Hayek. With him, you see moments, right? They're not consistent, but you see moments you're like,
whoa, it's a capable 6. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But but they'd rather go out and get Justin Braun, but he's never in the equation. And I guess this is and even on the Ranger broadcast, they'll kind of knock him. He's still got to work on those finer points. They say that. I'm like, what does that mean?
But you could say that about anybody. I mean,
right.
They could have said about Mark Stahl his last 4 or 5 years there.
It's going to be he's a Panther now.
Yeah.
We wanted this guy out on a rail. We ran him out on a rail. I never thought he was that bad, but he's from a different generation.
They liked him in Detroit. He actually wasn't that bad for the Red Wings last year.
No. I guess I think that's all I really got to ask. I think that's all I got to ask. Oh, somebody asked about, what do you think about Shane Wright dropping?
I ranked him number 1, but I expected him to drop. I didn't expect him to drop past Arizona if Arizona was going to draft a center. So Arizona basically determined that Cooley is the better center than Wright. And the GM said that they viewed Wright as a shoot first guy and Cooley more of a playmaker who makes everybody around them better, quote unquote. But the whole like stare down thing, the right saying I should be number one. Sometimes when you hear these kids say that, you want to say, shut up. You know what I mean? Like just do you want to be number one? Yes, I want to be number one, but if I don't get drafted first overall, happy to be in the NHL. And just, to say, I should be number one. Like, no, dude, like you were good this season. You weren't that good. So we'll see. He's going to have to, he goes to Seattle. Seattle's already got Matt Beniers. So now he's going to be either the one center there or the two center there. Beniers is already established. They love him in Seattle. He was pretty good in his cup of coffee late last season. But I expected it. I didn't expect to see Nemeth go 2, but he did. And the Devils, they made a good pick. He's a good player. But the draft, for the most part, went the way that we all kind of thought it would go. I didn't do a mock draft this year, but I would have predicted that the top 5 would have been a combination of Slavkovsky, Wright, Nemeth.
Some combination. Is it Othman that played with Shane Wright? Or was it Will Cooley?
No. Well, they might have played with him at the U18 Worlds. I think Othman was on the line with him for that short tournament.
Did any of the Rangers draft picks they picked this year play with him? Or it may have been Othman then.
No.
Othman said that he had talked to Wright during the season, and he kind of said, I want to play on Seattle. And I don't know if he's just saying that to get out of what, the stupid thing he said that I'm going first overall or whatever. But
yeah, I think Seattle is a good landing spot for him. I didn't think Montreal would be good because the pressure, and you'll see Slavkovsky. They're going to be watching that kid like a hawk. And it's interesting to see how Galchenyuk was a disaster. Kakaniemi, in retrospect, was a disaster, how it ended. Those are top 3 picks and forwards. Carey Price was a top 5 pick, and he worked out great. But, I think Othman and Wright were on a line together, and they're
that's
close.
Probably when they have a friendship.
So
who hit it out of the park, just to sum it up, league-wise? Who do you think hit it out of the park, and who fucked it up?
I don't think anybody really screwed it up. Detroit, after Casper, they just make these picks, and you're like, they'll pick a kid who's like the 4th best player on the team, and the 3 better players were available, and they
right.
So it's like, well, we saw something that you guys didn't. It's like, all right, but again, you say don't question the disease.
We're the smartest guys in the room.
Yeah,
that whole thing.
But Minnesota, Carolina, listen. Minnesota getting Yurov and Ogren. Yurov was my number 3. The only reason why I think he dropped was because he was Russian. In addition to already having a strong prospect pool, and then Columbus getting those 2 defensemen, Matejchuk and Jiricek. We're gonna have to be dealing with them in a couple of years. I actually like what Chicago did. People are beating up that poor GM. I like what he did. He's basically saying we're going to tank for Connor Bedard or Michkov first overall next year. I want no trace of the Bowman Blackhawks to remain. And, DeBrincat was going to cost them a lot of money to re-sign.
Right.
And if you try to unload him at the deadline, you're not going to get a 7th overall pick back. You're going to get like a 28th or 25th pick because the contender's going to trade for him. So I agree with that move. Montreal had a good draft. They drafted some pretty good.
I'm glad. I'm rooting for Gorton. I'm rooting for Martin St. Louis. I got no animosity. I don't want to see the Canadians win because they're all stuck up, their fans, and they think who they are.
Well, we've beaten them in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, wow.
Chris Kreider where we couldn't win in the Forum for 25 years.
Well, that's before Chris Kreider viciously attacked Carey Price. Oh, they won't forget that.
Yeah, but what was their excuse for 96? Beat them fair and square that year.
Yeah.
They had a 2-0 lead, remember, in the Garden.
Yeah.
1-4 straight.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope they do well.
Yeah,
It's still a lot
it's going to be
Rangers.
tough though because that division's loaded, and now you have 3 rebuilds already ahead of you: Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit. So
Yeah, I think Buffalo made some.
Ottawa's made some great
Ottawa
some
really
great moves.
they're getting now. They got Cam Talbot. They got Claude Giroux.
Signed Giroux.
Yeah, so that you know.
They've
I
got
can't wait for the season because there's going to be at least 1 or 2 teams from the Big 8 this year that the playoffs in the East will pretty much set at least the playoff spot in January. So I'm interested to see who's going to make a move. You got to figure the Islanders are going to try to make a move back.
It's over for them. Why did they fire Barry Trotz? It was the stupidest thing. Stupid. Lane Lambert, come on, give me a break. I saw him as a Ranger. He stunk.
I mean, they want to be more exciting. The Islanders were pretty exciting when
They don't have anybody. Who excited? Barzell, you want to see him skate around the whole fucking game? He doesn't put the puck in the net. Anders Lee, the captain, all right, he's good. He's 25, 30 goals. There's nobody exciting on that team.
Remember, Lou Fye is he fired coaches after 50 win season.
Fired Larry Robinson after he won a cup.
Ridiculous. Sorry, I'm going off on tangents. But all right, Steve, man, I tell you, thank you so much for your time, man. I had a blast.
Steve, it was good to see you.
Yeah.
Everybody had a great
likewise. Hope
time.
you guys are doing well. Your families, everyone's okay. I miss New York like crazy, by the way. Really getting homesick. I've been in Nashville
Where are
now
you
for
living
5
now?
years. Nashville.
A lot of people from New York moved down to Smashville to get that hot chicken.
Yeah. Well, they don't tax pensions, so that's
that's what it is.
But also just I was in Brooklyn for my whole life, and the real estate exploded, and you want to get more bang for your buck, and so
Definitely, Nashville is a great. It's so much.
Yeah, but I miss a lot.
You miss the New York.
There's
a lot of idiots up here. I can't stand the Ranger fans. I love hate when most Ranger fans. I love all the fans of our show, but I hate everybody else.
Now the people here are awesome, though. I got the people that live down here.
Good?
They're not. They're putting on a polite face for us, but they're not.
You
too
don't
happy
know
with all
because
these
Southern people. How you all doing? But meanwhile, they're like stabbing you in the back behind you. You don't know.
No, it's a nice mix. We got a lot of Californians coming in, a lot of people from Chicago, a lot of people from Colorado, leaving Colorado,
Really?
saying like Colorado's got the shit. I'm like, that's news to me. But I still seeing the Rangers go on a deep run, and I couldn't be home to like go to my bar I used to go to watch the games, and I got homesick. So
Joe Catroni said to say hi, Steve.
Say again.
Joe Catroni said to say hi.
Oh, what's up, Joe?
He's in the chat.
Joe, miss you, Joe. Oh, that means all right in Florida.
Yep. Yep. I'm going to see Joe in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's good. Everybody's bonding.
Yes.
So,
well, Steve, enjoy the rest of your summer. Thank you so much.
One last question.
Oh,
gotta
one
get
last
it in.
question.
One last question.
He's like Columbo.
I'm like
just
Columbo.
One more question.
One more question before I leave. Were you excited about the Rangers playoffs in the season? Did you ever have a dream that there would be a Stanley Cup parade? Did you ever allow that to get into your brain?
I loved every second of the season. I think we talked about it. Well, I know on my podcast I said I'm usually the pretty like the negative Nancy, self-loathing Ranger fan. But I sensed that something was going to change. That after the way they played last year, I remember I felt that the firings were a little premature. They were heading in the right direction. And I enjoyed every second of it. I enjoyed beating Pittsburgh twice in 7 years.
Coming back
3-1 deficit.
Yeah.
The beating Carolina, the game 7s, the really putting a stranglehold on Tampa Bay for a little bit there. It was Happy for the fans to see that again. So that's why, listen, we're critical of Dolan, and Sadis still has the role, I guess, but it all worked out. But we got to give credit to frickin' Gordon and to a degree David Quinn, because he's the guy that helped them transition from the basement days with Vino, the collapse, into respectability.
Yeah,
and I thought they were respectable last year.
Yeah,
Right.
he was a steady influence, but there's still detractors, people, with coaches, they just get a hair up their ass about a coach, and he's not well liked by the general populace. I really had no problem with him.
Yeah, I didn't like him. I didn't love him, but
I wasn't gonna go to bat for him and be like, oh, if he had a good team, he'd be they would have went further.
But to answer your question, no, I enjoyed it all. My daughters were into it. They were crying when they got eliminated, and that was a painful way to get eliminated. That game, how do you give up a breakaway after you?
Dude,
my daughter got into it too. She'd be texting me during the game, be like, "Dad, I'm so nervous." I'm like, "Oh, this is nothing." I'm like, you don't even know what lies ahead. But, and she'd text me and she'd say, she texted me before Game 7 of the Carolina series. She said, "Dad, I wish this game was at MSG. I'd have a better feeling about it."
Yeah. Like, the thing is, younger fans have no idea about the Devil series in '94, what that did to us, and how many times we died.
Steve, we did during COVID and there was no hockey going on, we had to talk about something. So we made a bracket of misery. We listed all the Rangers shit, like it could be minute.
Like, that's great.
It was great because it just narrowing everything down, making brackets, and then voting on everything. It helped us fill a good 2 months when there was nothing going on.
So much shit. It was like, all right, Barry Beck gets hit by Pat Flatley. All right, let's put that down.
Kenny Morrow must have been in there.
It was in there. What won? It'll surprise you because it's a fairly new one.
My all-time moment, though, in terms of crushing was the pitch, Ron Francis and
the goal from
but it was just that they had that series, and it was the first President's Trophy, I was so happy and excited, and it was so crushing.
I believe made it to the final 8. I believe
the final 8. Number 1 was it 2016 loss to Tampa Bay at home?
The Game 7,
Game 7 won. Because I think the younger people, that's more fresh in their recollection, where they
still fresh in mind 7 years ago.
Yeah. John Druce, was John Druce up there?
That was
one of my most.
Yeah, that was one of them.
And then
there was a lot.
What though? Well,
trades. Some of the trades and
moments we've had in the franchise. Forget about the Stanley Cup. It had to be the sweep for the Islanders in '94. How just the domination to shut them up. I think that shut them up forever.
No.
In my opinion, it did. My cousin, he can't say anything.
I live on Long Island, and when the Islanders had that 2-season thing they had, the jackets started coming out. You root for the Rags, they're losers, the whole thing.
All of a sudden, the Bobby Nystrom jerseys were back.
Dude,
1983. They used to sell T-shirts at the Mausoleum that said Rangers Stanley Cup champions 1939-40. And now, what are we on now? We're on
39 years for them.
39 years without a cup for the Icelanders.
Yep.
I hate them. As soon as the Rangers got eliminated, I started getting these fan texts from Islander fans just saying,
That's so stupid, though.
And I just ignored it because it's like, you thought the Rangers were going to win. I'm like, I never said I thought the Rangers were going to win, but
get used to it. I'm telling you, Rangers are going to be good for a while.
Yeah. So
I wish nothing about. I wish all bad things on those Islander fan cretins that are out there.
Absolutely.
I really. I got. They're Devil fans. I could take whatever. Maybe because I'm far, but when they. So now they all jumped on the Rangers, the casual fans now. And my wife works at a school, and she's like, "Oh, it was all Islanders last year. Now it's all Rangers." So the kids go with the winners. So that's basically
Right.
All right, Steve.
Thank you again, Steve. It was good to hear from you. Let's hopefully maybe we'll talk during the season if you have time.
Let's do it.
All right.
Always available for you guys. Always.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Take care. Have a great summer.
All right, guys. Take care. Be safe.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
There you go.
Wow.
The draft analyst. I'm sorry I pushed you
2 hours.
2 hours. I had a lot of questions. See, this is what happens when I come with prepared.
See, that's all right, though.
I just
That's
take
okay.
over the whole broadcast. I hate doing that, but
It's okay.
I feel like this OCD thing in my head is I got to get it all out. I got to get all the answers because I want to learn. And also, my wife isn't around and I'm bored. So I can add him on for another 2 hours. But he's just so knowledgeable. He just
Absolutely.
knows, you know.
Absolutely.
Wait, we're getting news. Oh, get the Wins news.
Are we getting news?
Mess and Gretz is reporting something.
Oh, wait.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins. You give us 22 minutes. We'll give you the world.
Ryan Strome apparently has signed a 5-year contract to the Dirty Ducks.
Wow.
5 years.
Wow. To play with Vetrano.
You're right, Frankie V. There you go. So we don't know what the we don't know what the average salary is, but we'll leave you with that.
12 million.
5 years, 12 million.
5 years, $12 million a year.
So there you go. Well, Jim, an absolute pleasure.
Do you want to talk to Connor?
What is he going to add? Is he going to talk about something relevant? You have
know.
a take?
I don't know. We don't have a screener, so I can't tell you what his take is.
All right, let's bring him on.
He's got his puppy face on. You know how he gets.
Okay, all right. Well, let's.
What's
How
up?
are you?
Yeah, sorry, Eddie. I have my Jeff Gorton impression on. You.
Sleepy dog.
Yeah, been a long couple of weeks.
Okay, so what you take, beer man?
Couple of takes. One, I just want to tie myself to you and Steve Kournianos. Like him, I used to live in Brooklyn, but now am in the South, and it's just like much less expensive, which I appreciate. But on the other hand, I'm much like you in the fact that I hate a majority of the pedestrian Ranger fans, shall we say.
Yes, that's true. I'm getting a little bit too edgy with those guys now. I have to hold back, restrain myself from these stupid. We can get Patrick Kane and Trocheck, or we can get Patrick Kane and Kadri people who don't realize there's a salary cap involved in this league, a hard one at that.
Yeah, this is not the NBA or the NFL where you can pick someone out, whoever you want.
And also, you mentioned the NBA, whereas you pick a guy in the first round and he's going to play in his first season. Hockey guys take 2-3 years, maybe 4 years to develop before they can. You know, you have your special exceptions.
Lafreniere and Kako for one.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I will say if each of those guys had spent a year in Hartford, I think that they would be much better off. But that's just me personally.
Could be. I'm saying it here right now. Capo Kako, when this RFA thing came up, I was like, why? I think he stinks. I hope he proves me wrong. I said Filipino stunk, and he had a great playoff.
He did.
Yeah.
I mean, I would still be nervous as shit if Capo Kako if Filipino was our second line center, but I'm thankful he won't be next year.
Right.
I mean, that's the only reason I'm happy about the Vinny Trocheck contract. Granted, I hate that signing otherwise.
Right. What about? Oh, so you hate? What do you hate the term? I would assume.
I don't like the idea of signing another 7-year contract when you have Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, and Trouba under that long term. I
Okay.
don't like the idea of a possibility of yet another buyout.
Okay. Well, yeah, but I think the cap is going to explode in a couple of years.
I hope you're right.
Which I think, but I understand you don't. It's very risky to take on guys like this, but the average per is the reason it's front loaded. The contract, from what I hear, I'm sure it's full of a no movement clause to anywhere.
That's
a Ranger.
Get out of me.
Right,
is that the idea that by year 4 or 5 there's a no movement clause and we're gonna get stuck with him and we're gonna buy him out the way that we did with Stepan or Richards or Lundqvist. That's what scares the shit out of me.
Well, so what? Who cares? That's 4 years. I'm not going to worry about this guy's contract 4 years from now. Eddie told you. Eddie could be dead in 4 years.
I could be dead in 4 years. What do I care about how long the term is?
Well,
Right.
Well,
We don't know how long Eddie's term is. We don't know how long my term is.
Nobody's term.
Well, two
Right.
things.
I'm not worried about it.
One, if Eddie dies, I get one of his chairs, dibs. And then 2, our window is not exactly huge. We have like
there's a
3 or
window.
4 or 5 windows.
Connor, this predates you, but I'll tell you this story very quickly, and then we're going to wrap up. When the Rangers signed Brad Richards in 2012 or 13, whatever that was, Eddie, that was a I don't know if you remember, but it was a big deal as to who he was going to sign with. This guy was sequestered in his agent's building, waiting for this massive decision to be released. Everybody thought, I believe Toronto was considered the front runner. And when it was announced that it was the Rangers, Eddie and I went on the air on Blog Talk Radio like 15 minutes later. And we did like a 20-minute show. And people in the chat, the ink wasn't even dry, and they were already speculating when Richards would be bought out. I can't think like that. Not worried about it.
The Rangers, like I said, they were the last team to get eliminated from the Stanley Cup.
Right.
My inner feeling and my dread feeling is that they're not going to be as good as they are next year, but I don't see any reason why, as long as you got Igor Shesterkin. But when you get that close to the Stanley Cup, you got to play for now. And I think, and he filled a need. They need a good face-off guy. He's better than Kopp or Strome. I just think that I don't care down the road. They'll find a way. They'll buy him out. I'm not into the finances.
We'll shoot him. What are we gonna do?
Well, it ain't my organization.
We'll send him to Hartford.
The Rangers got a lot of young guys that will be able to come in on ELCs, and if we got to buy these guys out, whatever. I think right now the Rangers organization is looking about as good as I've ever seen.
Can I
draft picks? What?
Sorry, can I just make one final point before Jim kicks me to the curb?
Okay.
Look, I obviously. Sorry, go ahead. Jim.
No, go ahead. Say it so we can leave.
Pushing 2.5 hours here, and I work for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work for a living too. Thank you.
All right, but he's been doing. I don't even go into this because that's a stupid comment.
Yes,
because you've been watching, and you're entertained by us. We're doing the ones entertaining, so 2 hours is a lot. Go ahead.
All right, so I'll give you my half penny worth of advice. I, like you guys, would love about the possibility that we deal away Trocheck the way that we dealt away Nash and McDonough. Nonetheless, I hope that in this 3 or 4 year window that we have Kreider at his peak and Trouba at his peak and Shesterkin at his peak, and the kids are still before we have to break the bank for them, that we achieve that top-notch Stanley Cup that we so much desire within the last 25 years. But nonetheless, I don't know, given the history of a franchise, that I see that. But you know what? this helps. So I'll get by in those 3 to 5 years.
Don't worry about it. It's sports.
Yeah.
Don't worry. It'll be good. What a fucking bunch of bullshit. Oh, my God.
Oh,
All right.
All right, Connor, thank you. Take care. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care,
Get your
brother.
beer.
yeah.
The always lively and entertaining Connor.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Now he's worried.
I'm not worried.
I'm worried either.
I'll worry about it. Why? What good does it do me to worry about the Rangers' financial situation? Are they worried about mine?
No.
They raised ticket prices again. They ain't worried about mine.
These armchair GMs sitting in front of books.
Right.
Like he's a learned man.
He's got I said in the chat, he's got his sportscaster on Zoom during the pandemic look. Let me sit in front of all my books and my trophies and my helmet.
Right. Overall, I thought it was a good day for the Rangers, and onward and upward, as Buzz Lightyear says.
Right.
So, all right. That's it, Jim. I'm sorry I kept you so long. But
No. I knew we had a lot to talk about tonight. I knew tonight would be a long show.
I agree with the chat. There's some people I know that rock from two guys, 1 cup, 2 cups, 1 cup. I know that he's not happy.
No, he's not.
I'm not worried. I don't care. They could have signed him to the 8-year max. I wouldn't have cared. Did we get improved? Did we improve the team? Yes.
Well, I will say at the end of the day, the top 6 is better than it was when they went to bed last night.
Yeah, maybe the next show we can try to, and I hate doing this, but projecting the lines now.
Yeah,
So,
well.
He's got a limited
let the
no
speculation begin. Because now there's a vacancy on the first line.
Yeah. They got rid of everybody. And we haven't heard Tyler Mott yet, right? But
right. I mean, I guess that's the one thing, the disappointing thing about the day is that, now the Rangers are at the end, they're at the end of the first day of free agency, and all the guys they got as rentals are gone. We kind of hope that at least 2 of them are going to stick around.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen Vetrano and Mott, and now it doesn't look like any, So they did lose some assets getting those players, and now they've lost the players. So, we'll see.
Yeah, well, they were good before them, and they were great in the playoff pushes, no doubt about it.
Right,
they were effective. Maybe sans Cop, but next trading deadline, maybe they'll pick up some rentals. I think they're gauged to get some new bodies here on in the forward area from their system. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be more signings, more moves. Who knows what's going to happen? And we'll come back next week if you're around.
Yeah, I'll be around.
All right.
I'll let you know what date's good. I think the 20th and 21st are no good for me.
Okay, maybe Tuesday, or maybe we'll have to skip a week because we're out of town this weekend. So,
okay,
heading up to Lake George on Friday.
Oh, everybody likes that Lake George.
I haven't been there in years. The kids,
I haven't been there since the mid-'70s.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's changed a lot.
Probably a little bit. I haven't been there since early '90s. But the girls have never been, so we're doing something different this year.
Oh, good. That's good. I think also I can't get. I think Chris Gavalis is saying that that we got to put Sammy Blais into the equation too. Maybe they think him and Mott are similar players. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. As long as they're doing something I like.
Right. So far, so good. We'll see.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
That's how it rolls.
All right.
And with that, cue the music. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you again to Steve Kournianos. If you are on Twitter, I feel sorry for you, but you can follow him at The Draft Analyst. And make sure you do. I'm sorry. That was the one other thing I needed to say about Steve before we go. You know, when Steve started doing this, he was like just a one-man band, going to the draft, sitting in the crowd, doing this. He was just doing this. It's almost a hobby.
He was kind of new to the whole thing.
But now it appears to be a little bit. I mean, he's talking about he's got people working for him, and he's got he's in an office. I mean, he's a little bit of an industry, a little bit.
Good for him.
Good for him. He deserves it. Absolutely.
He's got a podcast, too. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys soon. We love you. Thank you so much. We are now officially in year 14 of this program.
Wow. And, you know, Steve was our first YouTube podcast.
He was our first guest on YouTube.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. He might have been the first show.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
All right.
Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.